Okay, this video is very late in terms of how long I've been waiting to do it, but I'm going to do a video about same-sex couples in books because Aaron Waters did a video on it, and it was a very spoiler alert video, and this one is as well. So if you haven't read Amnesia or Forbidden Memories, then go read them and then come back and read this, watch this even. Okay. Now I've got that out the way, I just want to say, the thing with books, and Aaron Waters pointed this out as well, is that there's a very cliche boy meets girl, girl falls in love with a boy, boy falls in love with a girl, blah 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 thing, all the time. And it's very cliche, and it's very, and it's... Every book with romance in it, that is the main element. And though there are books with same-sex couples in them, they are very rare. There aren't many. I mean, I think it's becoming more of a thing now, like, because it's more accepted generally as an actual thing and not something that's illegal or, a mental illness. But, yeah, it's one of these things that it's going to take time to get to the point where it's not a big deal for it to be in a book or a movie or a TV show or whatever. And, you're always going to get people who complain about it and people who, give bad reviews because there's a same-sex couple and blah, 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 blah. But that's kind of something you've got to kind of deal with. And, okay, so now that's done, I want to point out that when writing Amnesia, I was about 15, 14, possibly, maybe even younger. I was struggling with my sexuality. I didn't know what I was at that point in time. I thought I was gay. I didn't know. It was one of them things. And I went on Wattpad and I read a lot of, stories with, well, LGBT main characters. And I kind of got inspiration from them, and that's how I wrote Amnesia. And I wrote a lot of stories on Wattpad, and there was only one of them where the main character was actually straight, and it was really amusing. But yeah, that was an interesting set of stories. But anyway, Amnesia's years old, and that's why Max and Leo came into being. And I mean, I wrote Forbidden Memories originally on Wattpad, and then I took that down. I took the entire series down and rewrote Forbidden Memories entirely, and changed the name of Book 3, because originally Book 3 was called Life Down Here because of a certain event that doesn't happen anymore in Book 3. So that is quite amusing. Plus, Forbidden Memories, one of the characters was called something very different, and originally the main characters actually weren't. Well, I've changed a lot of names, okay? But yeah, there's a lot of, obviously there's a lot of kind of same-sex stuff going on in Forbidden Memories, because there's Max and Leo, and there's Ryan and Jack, and those two are the same-sex couples. Then there's like Ash and Cassie. I believe it's Cassie? Yeah. And then Jasmine's mentioned, but it's not mentioned whether she's in a relationship or not, and it's, it's probably assumed that she's single. I mean, yeah. She's going to come into Book 3 quite a lot, and, yeah, if you don't want to be spoiled for Book 3, I would advise being careful with this video, because I will probably mention some things in Book 3 that you probably don't want to know yet, because it's nowhere near finished. But yeah, it's, Book 3, we have, Max and Leo again, which is obvious, and then we have Jasmine, who is a more major character in Book 3 than she has been in Book 1 and 2, because she was at the end of Book 1, briefly, and she was mentioned a little bit in Book 2, but in Book 3 she's actually going to be a proper character, like, there and everything. We also might see the return of a couple of characters, one in particular that I'm thinking of, but I'm not going to say anything about that because that might spoil it. We also already at the very beginning there is some Cassie, Ash, Jack, Ryan moments. Because there's an event that happens. And that's just at the very beginning, because they kind of... At the very beginning, Max hasn't moved back yet, so that's kind of why they're there at the beginning. I will point out that they might be there in the future, like, chapters and stuff as well. But anyway, yeah, so, you know, 2 sets of same-sex couples, 1 opposite-sex couple. The main characters are same-sex, because why not? Also, when I write my fantasy project, I am planning on the main character probably being bisexual, probably. I might change it, I might not, but that's the way I'm going with it. In terms of other books, there are not many I can think of that have same-sex couples in them. I mean, it would have been nice if Harry Potter had at least 1 in them, in the entire series, other than Dumbledore, which wasn't even mentioned in the book. It was mentioned in an interview with J.K. Rowling, which was annoying. But yeah, Dumbledore and Grindelwald, which weren't exactly... I mean, technically they were canon because it was part of the universe, I suppose, but at the same time they were never actually in the books or movies, so it doesn't really count. And you never assumed that... Like, when I was reading the books, I was assumed that Dumbledore and McGonagall were, like, you know, a pair, but, you know, and then I found out about that interview and I was like, oh, okay, that's cooler. But, you know, it's assumed, and it's wrongly assumed, I must admit, that every character in a book or movie or TV show is straight, and that's kind of a thing that happens. I mean, there are things in, like, Doctor Who which are more interesting, because there's, like, Madame Vastra and Jenny in Victorian London as a lesbian couple, and Madame Vastra is a lizard woman, so that's, you know, a lizard woman from the dawn of time, and that's perfect. And, you know, there are a lot of things where you think, you know, there could be same-sex couples there, there could be. There is a lot of room for there to be a same-sex couple. But a lot of the time there never is, because it's such a, I guess, a sensitive issue. I mean, obviously, previously it hasn't really been wildly accepted that people who are of the same sex can be together. Now it's becoming more accepted, especially in, like, the UK, where like same-sex couples can actually get married now, and soon they'll be able to transfer a civil partnership over to a marriage, which is even better. Yeah. In America, like, obviously a lot of places are becoming a bit more... They're allowing it a lot more, whereas there are other states that are just like, nope, never happen. Nope. And then you've got Russia, which is even worse. But yeah, so... Because I think the reason there isn't many same-sex couples in books is because it's a sensitive issue, and that's kind of a big deal. And that's kind of my video for now, because I'm already 8 minutes in. So I will see you next time. Bye.